The jailed Mexican population sits at 255,000. Drug dealers, gang members, murderers. If you're ever behind bars, it won't be easy for you at all. There's a reason prisons are called crime schools. But as of recent, there is hope. These prisoners learned how to tattoo for a chance at a better life.
I had no idea I was capable of being an artist like this. Same for them.
Jorge Cueto's mission is to give prisoners a second chance, in jail and in freedom. But how will he make that work? Let's start from the top. The most exclusive shopping district in Mexico City. In addition to the well-known luxury labels, there's a small shop called Prison Art. Our editor has an appointment with its owner, Jorge.
Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
Jorge discovered a niche market. Wallets, jackets, belts and bags, all tattooed by prisoners. His clients usually are rich tourists. It's hard to believe, but Jorge got the idea while going through hell on earth.
I was in a Mexican prison myself. I was in custody in the Puente Grande prison for 11 months. Things are very different here in Mexico compared to Europe or Germany. Even while the trial is in process, you're already detained. There's no pre-trial detention.
Jorge was arrested for fraud, alleged. While others give up, lose grip of their life, Jorge didn't. He kept his eyes peeled in jail, realizing the potential in the tattooing skills of his fellow inmates. He had an idea: to tattoo, not on skin, but on leather. As he was serving time, he started his business with the best prison artists.
After 11 months in prison, I was declared innocent and allowed to go. By the time I was released, 40 prisoners had already worked for me. They would say to me, "Patron, boss, please don't forget about us. This would be important for us to move on. We need this job."
Jorge kept his word and built a gold mine in the process. He sells around 600 articles in a price range between $100 and $600 per month. But in order to get to this point, he had to go through hell in prison.
There were times when there were over 30 of us in a cell designed to fit 6 people. There was so little room that we slept standing sometimes. They would use a special harness to hang themselves onto the bars in order to sleep.
Today, Jorge knows that he had to go through all of that in order to get here, in order to never forget that he saved a very special souvenir.
This is the first bag we made. The very first prison art bag.
Jorge needed a bag in jail back then to hold for his glasses, pens and a book. The tattoo artist initially was going to draw a phoenix.
It's in great shape and it'll stay that way because I'm not going to use it and it's definitely not for sale.
Once a week, Jorge personally brings in fresh leather to the prison located in the north of Mexico City. A total of 242 prisoners across 6 prisons tattoo for his label. To see the inside of a cell every week is normal for Jorge.
It's completely different to go in knowing that you're going to come out. When you go inside not knowing whether or not you leave again, it's different. Fortunately, I got over it with time. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are today. But being locked up feels terrible.
Jorge's destination, the Reclusorio Norte. More than 11,000 prisoners are behind bars in here.
This is the prison.
The Reclusorio Norte is a complex of in total 4 prisons. 2 of them are maximum security prisons. Jorge does his production in the Annexo, a smaller extension to a main building.
You can only film up to this point.
There are currently 169 prisoners in this part of the prison. They will all be released within the next year. Their last year of imprisonment should prepare them for a life outside of jail. The inmates are allowed to work in order to make some money, in garbage disposal, as a maintenance guy or a cook. But logically, whoever gets to tattoo for Jorge has hit the jackpot. Some color for a grey and dull day-to-day in prison.
How are you?
18 prisoners in here work for Jorge. In for robbery. None of them have ever tattooed professionally. They only picked up the trade in jail. Anyone who follows certain rules can participate.
If the applicants are violent or addicted to drugs, for instance, a committee in prison will not admit them. They think that wouldn't work, and they know the inmates best. We want to give everyone a chance, so we don't have any restrictions.
If you want to tattoo here, you have to follow Jorge's unbreakable rules, which are no alcohol, no drugs, regular interaction. If you don't follow those rules, you're out. Jorge's mission is simple: to turn criminals into good citizens. The prison supports him in this project.
It's easy to bring the material into this prison. The prison director is very receptive of the project, which is great for us because the boys can work faster, and so things are moving forward. Actually, we could have a larger production, but the prison limits the amount somewhat.
Edgar has been in prison for 4 years. He committed a series of robberies in order to afford his drug addiction. He continued abusing drugs behind bars for a long time even. Then, a new beginning came for him. He's been tattooing for Jorge for the past 6 months and is one of the best and most talented tattoo artists available.
I'm really proud of my work. I'm proud of the fact that I can do something like this. It's a shame I've only just discovered it. I had no idea I had it in me to become an artist. The same for them.
Unlike real tattoos, the prisoners tattoo the leather with shoe dye. More rare colors like gold are also a possibility. The tattoo machines are from a self-made prison brand.
The machine is made of a hair clip, a thread, and a regular sewing needle. There's a spoon in there, a regular one for eating. The motor is connected to the thread and rotates. The tip is a ballpoint pen and a bit of cushion so that the fingers don't slip.
The needles are the only sharp objects Jorge is allowed to bring into prison. The motors come from old DVD players. With this machine, Edgar even gave himself a tattoo. Newborn, his new beginning. Today he signs every piece of leather he works on with it. Prisoners with flawless behavior are rewarded. Edgar has worked his way up to become a sort of supervisor when Jorge isn't around. But today, the boss personally brought his new motifs. During autumn, the Dia de los Muertos theme involving skulls sells quite well. But there's one rule that is usually applied. Everyone tattoos what they can do best.
I'm specialized in the Catrinas, female skulls. I always fall in love with their shape. They're so beautiful.
The prison has influence on the selection of themes they work on. A total of 15 motifs are banned, such as guns, drugs, blood, or naked women. Jorge tries to prepare the inmates as best as he can for a life in freedom. They have to show motivation and a will to change. By offering flexible working hours, he doesn't force anyone into work. However, the inmates get paid per piece and size. Edgar earns up to $610 per month with his work. According to Jorge, that's even more than a prison guard. His philosophy consists of creating a financial cushion for when they're free. He also makes sure that half of the wages go directly to their families.
I still have an open case, but if everything goes as planned, I'll be out of here by October. From October onwards, I can continue to work in the foundation thanks to this job. This will also help me pay for a small place once I'm outside.
con una fuente de empleo para poder echarle ganas afuera.
What's the first thing you want to do once you're out? Go to the ocean.
Ir al mar.
I'd like to go to the ocean and thank God for my freedom.
Hay que dar gracias a Dios, ¿no?
Jorge has a shop outside of prison where he hires ex-convicts. The products that were tattooed today here will be processed there tomorrow. That's where we head next with Jorge. We go to Guadalajara. It's hard finding a job in Mexico as a former convict. Jorge jumpstarts his guys here. They used to sell drugs or rob people. Now the former prisoners sit in front of sewing machines and produce bags, jackets and purses. But Jorge didn't just start the workshop to help them.
In prison, there's a lot of rules for what can be brought in. That's why it's important to have a production unit outside of prison. That way, there's also a station outside where people can continue working on the projects, just as they would in prison.
Sharp objects such as compasses or sharp knives would be unimaginable in jail. And Jorge can only execute a crucial step of his process here. A worker seals the surface with a special varnish to prevent the leather from losing its ink once it's turned into a wallet. Anyone who is already tattooed in jail for Jorge can continue to work for him here. Jalisco was released just a few weeks ago. He was in for robbery and assault.
The job has allowed me to become the person I am today. Previously, I'd already be scheming my next crime. But nowadays, my thoughts are about something else. Today I think about how I can or better execute the tattoos.
Immediately after his release, Jalisco came to work. Already free, he wanted to protect himself from his own self. In the end, he decided against joining his.
Yes, I met the gang again, and they wanted me to join them. But no, I wasn't interested.
Because that would mean going back to selling drugs. In Mexico's criminal hotspots, 1 in 3 relapses back into their old life.
On my body, on my neck, everywhere you can find reminders of my past life, the things that marked me. But now I'm doing the tattooing, and it feels much better. It brings me ahead. That's my future, and that's my gun now.
Jalisco is happy that he can work for Jorge. With all his tattoos, it will be difficult to stand a chance in finding a normal job. Jorge's products are expensive, but he knows that his customers will be able to afford to pay for them. Only this way he can afford to pay his workers a decent wage, as well as renting out the space for 5 boutiques and their staff. For almost a year of his life, Jorge was behind bars being innocent. But now he likes to reminisce.
It was a very trying moment of my life, a very painful time in prison. But something positive came out of this. It gave me the opportunity to understand what was needed to help others with their needs. It allowed me to start this project, as well as help and change me.
Jorge's mission has been a total success so far. Up until this point, none of his workers have gone back to a life of crime.
Prison camp Guantanamo. One of the most controversial places in the world, and one of the most secretive. Here, the American military allegedly jails mainly high-ranking terrorists. We want to find out what the detention conditions in the camp are really like. And former prisoner Murat Kornats tells us about his experiences in Guantanamo. After 8 months and filling in countless documents, we finally made it. We got permission to film in Guantanamo. The filming terms are extremely restricted. Our journey starts at Miami Airport. We're surprised we're not flying from a military airport, but from an airfield for private jets. We're met by officers and a final check of our personal details. We'll spend exactly 24 hours in Guantanamo. The flight takes 2.5 hours. The destination is the island of Cuba, Guantanamo Bay. Here, there's a large US naval base. The ferry takes us to the other side of the bay. There lies the prison camp, isolated. In 1903, the Americans leased land from the Cuban government for a military base. In 2002, the notorious internment camp was put into operation there. The trigger, the terrorist attacks on September the 11th. Since the beginning of 2002, the prison has mainly included alleged members of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Here, only terrorist suspects are held. The camp is controversial. The reason? The US doesn't comply with the Geneva Convention. This means that the prisoners have no legal rights. Finally, we reach the camp. From now on, each of our steps will be monitored and our footage as well.
Everybody else that you talk to today in the camps can be, but no shots of guards.
Specially trained media officers lead us through the camp. A short overview. The US naval base in Cuba is called Guantanamo Naval Base. The area is over 116 square kilometers in size. In the southeast is the prison camp. This consists of 10 different camps with different levels of security and detention conditions. Some of these camps are no longer in operation. Camps 5 and 6 are currently the main prisons. In Camp Echo, prisoners spend the last few days before leaving Guantanamo. There is also a hospital and a library. That's what the officers want to show us first. We can't show the face of the soldier who runs the library. The prisoners can borrow over 35,000 different books, DVDs and magazines in a variety of languages, all charitable donations.
We take them to them on a weekly basis, and we'll take a couple hundred items, we'll box up, take over to them, and they're allowed to tell us, hey, I'd like to get this item this week, or we're looking for things that promote good order and discipline in the camps, have positive themes and values.
Positive. This is how the soldiers want to present the camp to us. Time and again, they emphasize how well the prisoners are doing here. We hope that we can get an impression of that ourselves. A bus drives us over the area. We're not allowed to move freely. The camp looks huge. At its peak, more than 700 prisoners sat in these cells.
It's hard to imagine that so many people are locked up here. You can see fence-wires everywhere, the barbed wire fence. It's a very claustrophobic, very frightening and fearful feeling.
This feeling is one that Murat Kurnaz knows well. He was in Guantanamo from 2002 to 2006. The charge? He's a terrorist, wrongly accused. After his release, he returned to his native city of Bremen. There, we have an appointment with him. What did he experience in Guantanamo? We show him our pictures. What are his memories like?
Es bedeutet Folter.
It means torture and injustice. All these things come back to your mind. And the worst thing is that there are still people there enduring that. Still. What exactly does Murat Kurnaz mean by enduring? What did he experience during his imprisonment? For example, I myself was punished for feeding birds by sitting in a dark hole for 60 days and doing push-ups for 30 days in the dark hole. We want to get an idea of the detention conditions ourselves. At the time of our filming, 79 people are being detained. Most are held in Camp 6. The soldiers take us there next. The terms for filming are further tightened.
Can we film during the drive?
No. We'll tell you when you can start.
Here, for the first time, we meet Colonel Stephen Gabovics. He's commander of the prison camp.
I think it's extremely important that the world gets to see what we do here and how our great soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, and Coast Guard do their mission on a daily basis to provide the safe, secure, humane, and legal treatment to our detainees. The majority of our detainees are here in Camp 6. Roughly 60% are here in Camp 6. Another approximately 20% are in Camp 5.
That leaves 20% unaccounted for. They don't want to show us their accommodation. We're allowed to look around Camp 6 after all. In an empty single cell, the soldiers present us the items that are available to the prisoners. These include clothing, blankets, headphones, cosmetics, the Quran, and injury-proof writing utensils. The cells are empty. There are no detained prisoners in this part of the camp. Then the officers take us to another part of the prison. Everything is shaded. We can only whisper. Behind mirrored windows, we see prisoners for the first time. Contacting them, or even talking to them, is strictly forbidden. It's prayer time just now. The prisoners don't know we're watching them.
This is a very unpleasant situation. It feels a bit like being in the zoo.
The men are detained without a trial. Nobody wants to tell us what they're accused of. The only statement is, for war-related reasons. Time and again, former prisoners report arbitrary arrests. Americans allegedly pay a bounty in Pakistan and Afghanistan for soldiers or police officers to extradite suspected terrorists to the United States. Murat Kornat was accused of fighting for the Taliban. Because of this suspicion, he was imprisoned for nearly 5 years, as it turned out, wrongly. In the beginning, I really thought of it. Believed that as soon as the Americans realized that I was the wrong one, they'd let me go, and kept on believing so. 1 year later, still. He never gave up hope of someday becoming a free man again. In Guantanamo, officers take us to the neighboring Camp 5. Again, they present an empty single cell. And the entertainment room. According to the statement, the prisoners are allowed to watch TV 4 hours a week, with ankle cuffs. Time and again, the guards and officers emphasize how well the prisoners are doing. Conditions would seem to be better here than in American prisons. Murat has experienced the conditions firsthand. He can only smile about the equipment in the cells that we show him. I saw these pictures too after my release and wondered, wow, we had so much there and I didn't know anything about it. I was there for 5 years and I didn't see any of it. He was frequently relocated during his captivity. He was in different camps. For instance, there's a camp where you're in solitary confinement in the dark. There are no windows or anything. It's completely closed off. And then there's a camp where everything can be seen and the guards can see because the cages are covered with plexiglass. So the air is really bad. And Cuba, Guantanamo, is a very warm place, extremely warm. We're not allowed to visit these camps. The officers insist that Guantanamo is not a prison.
The biggest difference is that a prison, as we have like in the United States or elsewhere, those are for people that have been convicted in a court of law. Well, detainees were not arrested. Detainees were detained in relation to some law of war aspect.
The soldiers stand by this principle. Even Colonel Gabovics. He's been working in the prison camp for only a few months.
Oh, I love it. It's a great job. The opportunity to be with all these soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, Coast Guard, and everything. It's fantastic. Just every day to be able to come out here and see what these great Americans do makes me feel good.
The day comes to an end, but sleep is out of the question. We're still in the media control post until after midnight. Picture by picture, the officers review our footage. Some of it is deleted. More than 700 prisoners have been released from Guantanamo by the Americans in recent years. Does that mean they were all held in spite of being innocent? We asked the top media officer.
And once they're transferred from Guantanamo and the custody removes from us to some other entity, we've done our job. And so it's not up to us to talk about guilt or innocent. It's our job to detain the detainees and care for them safely and humanely while they're here.
Guantanamo comes back to the headlines over torture allegations. Allegedly, soldiers use illegal interrogation methods such as waterboarding. We want to know, is that true? At the final press conference, the highlight of our trip, we have the opportunity to address the highest commander on the allegations of torture.
There is no torture, and when we do voluntary interviews, that is exactly what they are. They're voluntary. I can't speak for what may have happened in other places or many years ago here, but for a long time now, there has been nothing that could be considered by anybody as torture. We do voluntary interviews.
Is everything really voluntary? It doesn't sound like it with Murat Kornats. In the 5 years he was in American custody, the officers did plenty to get a confession out of him. There was food deprivation, a plexiglass insulated cell where you couldn't breathe, then 30 days in a cell where it's freezing cold, and then there were times when they locked you in a cell for 30 days, torturing you with heat. In 2009, President Barack Obama promised to close Guantanamo. But the prison camp still exists. For how much longer?
All I can tell you is that right now we are following the directives that we are given. And the intent right now from the President is to close Guantanamo Bay. We'll continue to do what we need to do to facilitate that.
No one can tell us when that will actually be. It's difficult for former prisoners to start a new life after release. Murat Kornats has done it. Our journey comes to an end. What remains is nightmarish images of one of the most secret places in the world. Handcuffs, prison clothes, a rough tone.
Now you in the jailhouse and you snitch!
These aren't convicted prisoners, but children. But why are they in jail if they didn't commit a crime?
Keep going!
To find out, we head to Chester, South Carolina. It's Friday, just before 6 o'clock in the morning. These kids will spend their weekend in jail, even though they didn't do anything wrong. Among them, Cottrell. He's just 8 years old. 6 o'clock sharp is the start of the weekend experience. Those responsible for it, their own parents. Cottrell's mother, Deandra, has voluntarily sent her son here.
His attitude, his outlook on life, his grades have started back going up. It's like I'm looking for a positive impact on behalf of us.
Jail for getting bad grades. The parents pay $75 to treat their children as real criminal offenders. We are shocked by the harsh treatment. Courtney also finds it difficult to see her 14-year-old son Nola like this. But she's afraid that he'll come off the rails. She sees this weekend as a last resort.
I felt bad, but I would feel even worse if I was somewhere having to identify him or anything of that nature. So, because the way he is, that's where he's at.
A weekend in prison as an extreme educational measure. Time to say goodbye to their parents. Nola and the rest aren't staying here any longer. With flashing blue lights and sirens, they head to the prison. The goal of the officers is to push the children physically and mentally to their limits. For the next 2 days, these blue walls will be the home to Nola and the others. Deputy Boyd is taking part in this program for the first time. How does he find the harsh treatment of the kids?
So you just gotta be mindful that they are children, but they gotta change their life now, so when they do get of age, they have a better path.
Some of the kids are actually in real trouble. Nola's mother thinks her son is hanging out with gang members.
You run the street over there. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Talk. You run the street over there. You run one little gang.
But is this kind of deterrence the right way? Children should learn what prison life feels like, and everything that goes with it. Contact with the outside world and their parents is only possible through a thick glass panel. And in the middle of the conversation, the officer interrupts them unannounced.
Did you get to talk to him?
So you got a chance to get me on the phone?
Courtney is visibly shocked, but that's exactly what the officers want to achieve.
I see my mom, my dad, my aunt, my grandmother, and I can't touch them because there's somebody behind me screaming, yelling, and not allowing me to touch.
As the time comes for the parents to go home, the kids can take a breather. Can Cottrell even understand what's happening here?
I feel sad because I miss my mama.
Nola looks exhausted.
What do you think about all this?
How do the officers justify the extreme handling of the children?
Life is harsh, so what would you prefer? You would prefer for us to be hard on them in here to keep them from coming in here, or be out on the street and learn street lessons, those harsh lessons, and end up in here? Which one is better?
Extreme deterrence. This program has been around since 2012. An important part of this is meeting real inmates. But before that happens, Cottrell and the others have to spend their first night in a cell. The next day, it also starts with a drill. But the tone changes a bit. Deputy Boyd and the other guards call it the building phase. They try to talk some sense to the kids.
That's the wrong path. Hey, keep going down.
You will be in here. If you keep hanging with us, you will end up in here or a place like this.
Gang member or just rebellious? A profile for the program doesn't exist. The decision to send their children to prison lies solely with their parents. Before Nola and the others meet real inmates, it's time to go to the nearby city park. Social work time. On the way over, we drive through Chester. Drugs and gangs are a big problem here.
And we had a 14-year-old about 3 weeks ago get killed, gang-related.
Lieutenant Neal is a co-founder of the program and a Chester native, but his connection is even deeper with the kids.
And the reason why my heart is in this program is because I once was an at-risk youth. I was actually a bad youth. I did the gang banging. That's why we take so much pride in the program that we're doing, because we all once were there.
The police voluntarily sacrifice their weekend once a month. They're not paid, but it's worth it. Deputy Graham even took part in a similar program as a teenager.
And that's how we're able to relate to the kids. That's how we're able to relate to a whole lot of stuff on the street that we deal with, because we've been there, we've done that, we know what's going on.
But they don't realize that the program could also harm some. They're convinced of the program's success. Out of around 750 children, 7 had serious problems with the law afterwards. Back in prison, we also notice a change. The mood is more relaxed. Then it's time for the children to be left with the real inmates. Some of them are even in for murder. The ugly truth.
Man, you know why I'm here? I don't give a damn about you. You know why I officers agreed to do this? To get the hell up out of my cell for a few hours.
Nola's big dream, to become a professional football player.
If you want to play football, you come to jail, you better play football. Go to college. Be somebody's life. You can be doctors, lawyers, teachers, whatever you want to be. Living in the street, all thing you're doing is cutting your life short. That's it. That's all you're doing. I'm telling you, the street is not the life you want to live.
The meeting leaves its mark on the boys.
It changed from a little boy that I was to a man. Changed the whole attitude, changed the anger.
The last task for the kids is to write a letter to their parents.
You write that letter to your parents, pour your heart out. They'll always see improvement in you and you, along with the rest of it. And who did it?
Encouragement is also part of the weekend.
Do you know what you're going to write to your mom?
I am sorry for being bad at school. I'm gonna write some more.
Are you mad at your mom for sending you her here?
No, Mom.
As the children write their letters, Deputy Boyd and the others make some time for them. They share, above all, their personal experiences.
I've been to college. I played college football. I mean, you can do it, man. And I come from the same neighborhood you come from. Grew up probably with the same people you grew up with. You gotta make decisions to take that different route.
Nola's conclusion to the weekend? The kids are almost done. Sunday morning, 6 o'clock. Courtney and the other parents come to pick up their children. You can sense the tension. Did Nola learn anything from this weekend?
I think I learned my lesson, and this program to stop disrespect you and follow by your rules at all times.
Mama in my class, I am sorry for being bad at school and being disrespectful.
The parents are relieved, and so are the children. Is that just because the weekend is over? A weekend in jail for an 8-year-old. Is that really necessary?
Do you think that was the only option
Well, not really. It's like after the class, from looking at a different impact on things, I was like, I could have done different things differently. So it was basically changing.
Deandra seems reflexive. Courtney seems relieved. The method is questionable, but at least the policemen really seem to care about the children. And for them too, a long weekend comes to an end.